So welcome, Peter, to this series of videos to help educate the market, individuals alike, about this wonderful profession that I feel so glad to be part of, called coaching, professional coaching. And the question that I have for you is that, coaching, especially in India, has traditionally been offered to, just a very select few within organizations. And whilst that is slowly beginning to loosen and change and be offered to more layers in the organization, I've heard you, as well as from the ICF, talk about the sense of democratization of coaching. So if you can share a little bit about that in terms of your perspective, how you see it happening, and what are some lessons that we can take to support this?
Thank you. Yeah, and that's absolutely true for India, and again, reflecting the rest of the world. Coaching, if I were to take a look at coaching in India, from my understanding of being there and working with Indian coaches for the last 12 years now, there's a propensity of coaching, whether it be internal coaching or external coaching, hiring a coach from the outside of the organization, bringing him in. They've been mostly focused on the higher echelon of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the CXO level, maybe the CXO -1 level, maybe getting down into the senior VP level, etc. And if you take that whole composite layer of organizational leadership, it may be 2% of the population of that organization, maybe. Part of it has been because of the lack of having a professional coach available, number one. Number two is the educational component of this is, like, what is coaching? I mean, real basic, and is that the same as mentoring, kind of, those kinds of questions? And no, it is not, by the way. And I think the last 12 years has gone a long ways of educating the organizational higher ups, HR, L&D, executives, etc., on terms of not only what it is, but the power of it. And so I think the future now lays in how do we bring this down to the other layers and levels of an organization? How do we get it down to the supervisory level? How do we get it down to the managerial level, the business unit level? The people that we want to groom or accelerate their, the high potentials. How do we bring them in, all of them, not just, the top 2 or 3 or 4, even in that group, that are promotable, say, within the next year, but the ones that we are grooming for the 3 years from now.
Correct.
And how do we bring coaching to them to develop them? The other area I think of expansion is going to be a higher focus on personal development, even within the organizations, or maybe even especially in the organizations, so that they don't burn out at 35, so that they have a sense of fulfillment as they're growing their career and developing professionally. I mean, how many people do you know that are 40 years old and burned out? They're exhausted. Maybe they don't even like what they're doing anymore. So I think that coaching has a great promise of delivering on that side of personal development at all levels to a greater degree. And again, that's going to take a coach that is comfortable in working holistically as opposed to just topically.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Peter, and so passionately as well. And I been in this profession just a little baby for the last 6 years. I have seen in the last 6 years itself, coaching go not just from the top rung of the organization to many, many layers below, and even outside of the organization. So that I have seen it grow to have people who are part of organizations choosing to hire a coach independently because they see the value that they have received from coaching, maybe within the organization, or maybe just having heard about it, and at a personal level, they hire a coach, maybe for their professional goals as well. but they're
Mhm.
willing to make that investment in themselves. And also slowly trickling into the education space. I shared with you earlier, I just did a program for teachers as coaches, and then moving into number of people who are taking what are graduates from our program as well, what they've learned into becoming a parent coach. So I really see coaching is here to stay, and I'm so glad that it is, because I think it's not just a great profession, but I think it's also a great personal service towards the upliftment of human consciousness, is the way I see it.
I totally agree with that, Amrita. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
It's been seen in a very narrow channel of how do I get more performance out of my top leaders and how do they become better leaders? And it does that. It does. But there's so much more in terms of the human evolution, human development, human compassion. And frankly, the world could use a whole lot more of that. And professional coaches that are professionally trained, that love their fellow human being and not judging them, and can hold a space for them to come back to what you about, back to source, literally. I talk about getting to that core of the individual that was there from their creator. And when they operate in business, in their professional role, outside of the professional role, as a son, as a dad, as a fellow human being, they are literally a better, more comfortable, more fulfilled human being. So it has all of that promise. And that, I believe, we're going to see shining out in the next 10 years.
Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing coaching to my world and making this world a much better place. So,
Thank you.